Some of you know me, I'm Paula Tuttle, and I've been here a few times with different groups. Zafiro Trio, Diamante Orchestra, Quartz Quartet, but this is the first time I've been here with any of these musicians. We have Alison Fujito and Stephanie Tredick. They just came in from the symphony. They had a double rehearsal today. They're getting ready for a big concert. This is Nanette Solomon, who I've played so many concerts with when I was up at Slippery Rock. I've known her for a really, really long time. But I've known Allison even longer. We used to play chamber music late into the night years ago. But Stephanie, I think I've known you the longest, yeah. Right? Stephanie and I were friends when I was just a young pup and we could stay up all night playing music. So it's great that we're actually playing this piece for you today. And then there's Justin, who I play. Doing this sort of ad hoc Trout Quintet by Schubert. Did you know we were playing the Trout Quintet by Schubert? Did they tell you that? Okay, great. We're going to talk a little bit about what the piece is about. It's about trout. And it's a halibut piece.
Oh, she's been waiting all year.
No, a bass player told me that the other day. Yeah, bassists have a lot of respect for this piece.
You mean
and
a bass?
A bass. Yes, the bass player. And they all wanted to know who's playing bass. So we're going to get started with the first movement. It's really beautiful, and we'll talk a little bit more after we play the first movement and warm up a little.
Used to talking with this, not this. Yes, I have been urged to tell you a story about this viola that I'm playing. See, what did we figure? It was born about 50 years before this piece was written. In Italy. Yes, a lot of music has been played upon it. It used to belong to a man named George Humphreys, who was a member of the Boston Symphony for 40-some years. He also played in the Wheeling Symphony. I read about him. He grew up in Ohio, and he wrote a book on becoming a musician. I wish I had met him. He died in 1980. And when he was still a member of the Boston Symphony, that's where he spent most of his career, he kind of wheeled and dealed in stringed instruments. He bought and sold them, and he sold this viola, which he owned, to somebody in Boston who decided that he didn't like the way the top looked. Now, I think this is a pretty nice top, don't you? But this guy decided he didn't like the top, sort of not liking the Mona Lisa's smile, if you get my drift. So this new owner took the instrument to a luthier in Boston, who agreed, and I just can't imagine, but he agreed to make a new top for the instrument, which is just crazy. You know, nobody with any scruples should do that, but this guy did. And when Mr. Humphrey found out about it, he was, of course, furious, and he contacted the luthier and says, "I want my top back." And the luthier couldn't find it. And it took a while, but eventually the top did turn up, and it was returned to Mr. Humphrey. And by then, the person who messed up the instrument didn't own it anymore, couldn't be found to be given a spanking. So Humphrey decided he was going to find the rest of the orchestra, the rest of the instrument. So when the orchestra went out on tour, he went to every violin shop in the towns where the Boston Symphony was playing. And they were in Europe somewhere, and lo and behold, Mr. Humphrey found the rest of the instrument, which he recognized. And in those days, you could actually buy such things because they weren't astronomically expensive then. He bought the rest of the instrument, brought it home with him, and he had a rather renowned maker here in the United States reunite the top with the rest of the viola. And I found out about this from the man from whom I bought it, who was a colleague of my mother's at Ball State University. And just an addendum to this whole wonderful story is that the owner, Bob Slaughter, you couldn't keep him in a box. He was one and only. He was just an incredible guy. And he wore red socks for everything. He would have worn red socks. Symphony concerts, we should have. Symphony concerts, he wore red socks. And so I told him when I bought this instrument from him, in addition to the papers from the provenance and everything, I said, "Bob, I want a pair of red socks." And he sent them to me. Unfortunately, they were merino and they had moths in them.
Tell us the name of the maker.
Oh, yeah. So this instrument was made by a man named Carcassi. So, very nice fellow. I'm his caretaker until it's time for me not to be, so I'm trying to do my best by him. And that's my story. Somebody like to announce our next movement?
Andante.
All right, it's an andante, which is actually a walking tempo. So imagine yourself strolling along, and that should fit with what we're doing.
Relax.
I'm just gonna put it up here. It's off, so you can talk amongst yourselves. Okay. It doesn't start till I do.
Let's start with you.
Thank
Is everybody sufficiently relaxed now? The next piece is going to wake you up. It's a scherzo, and they're always really lively. So Allison is rosining her bow, so that it's going to be even more intense, right? You know. So everybody knows a scherzo usually has a lot of repeated sections, and then there's a trio section, and then you go back to the scherzo, right? Just like a minuet or something else. So here's the scherzo. And
Scherzo means joke.
oh yeah, it's a big joke.
It doesn't mean scared, so.
So this piece is unusual in many ways. You might have heard chamber music pieces that have 3 movements or 4 movements. This one has 5, all just 5 delightful, wonderful movements. And it's also unusual in that you might see a quintet that would have a piano and, say, a string quartet, but you don't usually see one that has one of each string instruments. And we're delighted to have this piece in the repertoire because it features the bass. And so that's the other unusual thing about the piece. The piece was written in 1814. It's sometimes called the Trout Quintet. You've probably heard that why. And the reason for that is that the 4th, this movement that we're going to play next, is actually a theme and variations on a song that Schubert had previously written called The Trout. And the song is on a text by Christoph Daniel Schobart, who's not related to Schubert. And it's about a trout that, you sort of have the stream, and the piano plays this little flowing riff that sounds like, the stream in the water. And it's about, just kind of watching this fish capriciously go in the water, and then unfortunately a fisherman comes, and the observer is hoping the fisherman doesn't catch it, but obviously the poor little trout gets caught. And it's been said that the Schubert, the poet, was a political prisoner at the time that he wrote this. And so it's very possible that the poem actually is about predation. And so he's talking about the duke that had him imprisoned for speaking his mind. So it can all kinds of, it can also have interpretations about predatory males. So they've been looked at it. In any case, what this piece does is take the tune of the song and use it in every variation. So first you'll hear the theme, and then you'll hear each one of us kind of riffing on the theme, and then it goes, it goes crazy. There's a sort of a part where the piano just kind of runs away, and the other instruments are just kind of, they're doing the little tune, and the piano just has like 1,000 notes per second going on. And then it goes into a very minor key, and then at the very end, it comes back with the actual song that Schubert wrote with the accompaniment that he originally put in the piano part. So it's a really very intriguing piece, and I hope you enjoy it.
And I swear there's a German drinking song in the middle of it.
Yes, and a bar fight.
And a bar fight, that's right. All kinds of fun stuff in this. this is the last movement. Some pieces go on and on and on, and you turn the page and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's more. This piece, we get to the last movement and we're all sad because, you know, we want it to go on forever. It's so beautiful. This is actually, not only is this my first time playing this with this group, this is my first time that we've had 3 performances of this piece, and before we got together to learn this piece, I had never played it. So I waited a lifetime to play this piece. And it's, for all of us, I think it's one of our very favorites. So this is the last movement. It's fun. Is there anything else to say?
It was great.
You might recognize this last movement. It's the theme song for the Britcom, Waiting for God, if you're familiar with that. And if not, you know it now. We're going to play Pass the Mic.
I just want to say thanks for coming to our concert. This is our last movement. We were talking so much about Stephanie's viola. We forgot to mention that our instruments.
Actually, I have the other one today.
Uh-oh.
Never mind.
Well, yesterday we had instruments that were made here in Pittsburgh by the same maker.
You
You know,
a different one today?
Play a different one.
she's playing her Amati. Is that what it
Oh
is?
God, no, I wish. No, it's,
So I bought this violin from a violinist in the Chicago Symphony who was selling it because he wanted to buy a Guadagnini, which is a very famous, expensive violin. This one is made by Santino Lavazza in Milan, Italy. It was made in 1718, so it is older than I am. It's older than anybody in this room. And the reason I could afford it was he was not a well-known maker, but it's a lovely violin, and I love playing it on it. I also have a second violin that's made by a Pittsburgh maker named Philip and Jan, who made the lovely cello that Paula is playing. And we haven't heard what instrument you have.
It's just not marked. We don't really know what it is.
It's a wood base.
It's a bass. but it sounds great. So with that, I will go put this down because I don't know how to get it on the stand either.
Feels good.
If anybody has questions, we're happy to answer questions. If you've ever had a question you've always wanted to ask a bass player, or a violinist, or a violist, or a cellist, or pianist, here we are. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for all the information between the movements and the tidbits, and especially the story about your instrument.
Oh,
That adds so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great story. Well, thank you all. You have a question?
Oh, yes, question.
That's definitely what's with the old rubber band.
Oh, it's
Actually,
held together by a rubber band. No.
I'm actually kind of proud of this rubber band and this sponge and this piece of fishing line because I have a U.S. patent for this. And it actually, it's a little bit, kind of sticks to you and it helps me hold the instrument up. Allison uses something a little more.
It looks like a torture device, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it sits on my shoulder nicely and it
Yeah.
fits. We all have different necks, different shoulders. Our collarbones jut out at different angles.
That's right. But
And so it's hard to-
I developed this because I needed it, so there you have it.
How long have you been playing together?
since November?
Since November? Not long.
Not long.
A few months. Yeah. We'd be delighted to. Any other questions? Come on, we got bass player here.
Yeah,
You-
was Bennett?
Bennett, I have, yes, maybe not this one.
Justin plays jazz too.
Oh,
Electric.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo!
Why not? Well, you've been a great audience.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you so much for coming.
Thank you.